Let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking one of the most famous yet fiercely debated success formulas of all time. We're talking about the philosophy behind Napoleon Hill's legendary book, Think and Grow Rich. We're going to look closely at the blueprint that supposedly built modern empires, but we're also going to shine a massive spotlight on the deeply controversial man who actually designed it. It's a wild story of incredible ambition, psychological mastery, and, as you'll see, some truly staggering historical contradictions. So here's a question I really want you to keep in the back of your mind as we go through this. What if the most famous success formula in history was actually written by a con artist? We're exploring both the undeniable, real-world impact of this philosophy and the shocking, almost unbelievable history of its creator. I mean, can a formula actually work if the math behind it was completely fabricated? Let's find out. We've got to start by acknowledging the sheer, monumental cultural impact of this work. This isn't just a book, guys, it's a cultural cornerstone. First published back in 1937, right on the heels of the Great Depression, Think and Grow Rich has sold over 15 million copies. That's astronomical. It practically birthed the modern self-help genre and laid the very foundation for today's entire hustle culture. It essentially told a desperate generation that they could literally think their way out of poverty. Now, the absolutely crucial point of Hill's whole philosophy is this premise: poverty and wealth are both offspring of thought. Hill argued that our thoughts are actually tangible things. His idea was that if you subconsciously believe you're destined to struggle, well, your actions will just naturally align with that reality. But if you program your mind to fully expect success, you trigger a mental mechanism that actively hunts for opportunities to build wealth. He claims your dominating thoughts literally magnetize your brain. Moving on to Section 1, the framework of wealth, distilling the 13 steps to riches. So, Hill claimed to have studied 500 self-made millionaires, and from them, he formulated a strict 13-step psychological sequence. And you can't just skip around here, they completely build on each other. The foundational 4 steps start with a burning, obsessive desire. We're not talking about just wishing for something, but a total obsession. Then comes faith, where you literally convince your subconscious that you will succeed. Next up is autosuggestion, which is how you actively program that subconscious mind. And finally, organized planning, taking that raw desire and translating it into continuous real-world action. But applying that very first step takes immense precision. Hill didn't want you to just vaguely want to be rich. No way. You have to fix the exact specific amount of money you desire right in your mind. Plus, he noted that the universe doesn't just hand out something for nothing, right? You have to determine exactly what service or product you intend to give in return and establish a rock-solid deadline for the whole shebang. To build that autosuggestion, Hill demanded sheer, unrelenting repetition. He instructed readers to write down their exact financial desire and read it out loud twice a day, once right before hitting the pillow and once immediately after waking up. But get this, you couldn't just read the words like a robot. You had to attach intense, highly colored emotion to them. If you can clearly visualize the money and truly feel the reality of it, you effectively rewrite your subconscious programming. You're weeding out the seeds of failure so that only success can take root and grow. That brings us to Section 2, the mastermind principle, the engine of phenomenal success. Now, a mastermind in Hill's world isn't just a casual, everyday networking group. He claimed that when 2 or more minds coordinate their knowledge and effort in a spirit of perfect harmony, they actually create a third mind. He described this as an invisible, intangible, and highly powerful psychic force. Basically, by aligning yourself with others, you multiply your own output and tap into an entirely higher level of intelligence. It's like combining batteries to get a massive surge of power. To back this up, Hill pointed directly to history's heavyweights. He claimed Andrew Carnegie attributed his entire fortune to his mastermind staff of 50 men. Then you have Henry Ford, a guy who started with very little formal education, but reportedly absorbed the brain power of his brilliant friends, people like Thomas Edison and Harvey Firestone, to become incredibly wealthy. Hill even cited Mahatma Gandhi, pointing out that getting 200 million followers to coordinate their minds and bodies in perfect harmony for one definite purpose was the ultimate display of this immense passive power. But here's where things get wild. Section 3, the pivot, the man behind the myth, unpacking the historical dissonance. There is just a stark, undeniable contrast between the legend Hill sold and the actual historical facts. Hill pushed the myth that his entire philosophy was inspired by a personal interview and mentorship with Andrew Carnegie back in 1908.
He also claimed he advised President Woodrow Wilson during World War I and even helped FDR write his famous fireside chats. But here's the kicker. Historians and Carnegie biographers have found literally zero evidence that Hill and Carnegie ever crossed paths. No records exist of him advising sitting presidents. And that one photo he had with Thomas Edison, turns out it was the result of an audacious stunt where Hill crashed a convention just to hand Edison a medal. What about all the letters from these famous men? Well, he claimed they were conveniently destroyed in a mysterious fire.
Yeah. Interestingly, in a remarkably rare moment of private admission, Hill himself acknowledged the agonizing irony of his situation. He actually wrote that he had begun to place himself in the category of charlatans. He admitted to spending the better portion of his life chasing a rainbow he just couldn't catch. Basically, he knew he was selling a remedy for failure that he was completely failing to apply to his own life.
Which leads us directly into Section 4 of Foundation of Lies, a history of scams and warrants.
When you look at his actual career timeline, it reads a lot more like a rap sheet than a resume. In 1908, the exact same year he supposedly sat down with Andrew Carnegie, he was actually fleeing Alabama with a $20,000 fraud warrant on his head. His crime? Buying lumber on credit, selling it for cash, and totally stiffing his suppliers. Then in 1909, he founded a scam automobile college in Washington, D.C. that exploited students for free labor. Fast forward to 1918, he's got arrest warrants in Illinois, and the FTC is slapping his magazine with charges for false advertising. And yet, this is the very man who later wrote the definitive guide on organized planning? And if you think his business life was full of red flags, his personal life was just downright bizarre. In the 1930s, right around the time he published his famous book, Hill got heavily involved with a New York cult called the Master Metaphysicians. They apparently used his book as a sort of holy text. It gets weirder. Hill was actually named the godfather of an infant that this cult was attempting to raise as an immortal baby. You really can't make this stuff up. On top of that, his personal relationships were plagued by some incredibly dark allegations. He was accused of having an ungovernable temper, brutally abusing his second wife, Edith, and even throwing their toddler daughter to the floor. Business associates accused him of cheating on his wife with prostitutes. In total, the man went through 5 marriages. His fourth wife, Rosalie Beeland, who actually helped him write Think and Grow Rich, wisely secured the book royalties in a prenup, sold off their shared assets, and literally ran off with her divorce lawyer. This entire life of turbulence, chaos, and alleged violence heavily contradicts everything he wrote about mastering positive emotions and operating in harmony. So, how do we make sense of all this? Let's dive into Section 5, the success paradox, reconciling the art and the artist. Consider this massive, undeniable number, 15 million. Despite his highly documented, fraudulent, and frankly chaotic life, over 15 million people bought his book. Countless modern entrepreneurs have successfully utilized his framework. The concepts of specialized knowledge, rapid decision-making, and mastermind groups, that's exactly what venture capitalists look for in startup founders today. The crazy thing is, the blueprint actually seems to work for those who seriously apply it, even if the man who drafted it was basically making it up as he went along. And that brings us to the ultimate tragic cognitive dissonance of Napoleon Hill. He died in 1970, and despite the millions of books sold over the decades, he passed away with very little to his name. In a highly twisted way, he kind of proved his own theory. By simply declaring himself rich, influential, and successful, he manifested this massive global following. The thoughts became things for sure, but the actual wealth, it always seemed to slip right through his fingers. So I'll leave you with this final, provocative thought to ponder today. Can a blueprint for success be truly valid if its architect was a complete fraud? Does the immense, life-changing value that literally millions of people found in this philosophy outweigh the fabricated, scam-ridden life of the philosopher who wrote it? Honestly, can the truth be delivered by a liar? Think about that the next time you hear someone talking about manifesting their success. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and remember to always keep questioning the formulas you're handed.